Let's go back to this discussion on the report. What is your reading into the two different reports? What message is China trying to send?
Well, this is part of a long series of tit-for-tat between China and the Philippines. What China is trying to signal to the Philippines is that China will not, sit back and let the Philippines take the offense. And so, in this case, China is anticipating that the Philippines will file another case on the degradation of the environmental status around the Scarborough Shoal. So the report released by China is in anticipation of that report because they fear that the Philippines will accuse China of degrading the ecosystem around Scarborough Shoal. That's the reason why they released this report early on. So this is part of a long-running tit-for-tat between the two countries.
Professor, when it comes to environmental protection in these waters, who exactly is in charge of enforcement?
Well, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea declared that the Scarborough Shoal is a common fishing ground. That means the Philippines, Taiwanese, Vietnamese, and Chinese fishermen can actually go and fish there. So there's no one country that owns this lagoon. It's actually a shoal and a lagoon. But China has a de facto control of the Scarborough Shoal now since 2012 because if you recall, 2012, they had a conflict between the Philippines and China never left. So they have a de facto control there now. So it's China which is in control of the lagoon. Although the Philippines claims that the Philippines has legal rights. Although Filipino fishermen are occasionally allowed to fish in the lagoon, but now China is enforcing that the lagoon is off limits for rehabilitation purposes.
Looking at how tensions have escalated between the two sides, and given this shaky way that enforcement is being done in these different shoals, do you think China has a case to force the removal of the grounded Sierra Madre ship that's in the Second Thomas Shoal?
Yeah, this is a very complicated issue. From the Chinese side, they claim sovereignty over Spratlys, including the Ayungin Shoal, they call Renai, where the Philippines grounded its ship. So Chinese claim is based on historical rights and sovereignty claims. And the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, Hague ruling or declaration said that they have no jurisdiction on the issue of sovereignty. So that is what China is insisting, that the Hague Declaration did not invalidate their claims over the Spratlys. The Philippine case rests on the Hague ruling, which is that the Philippines has sovereign rights. So sovereignty claims and sovereignty rights are two different concepts under international law. And so this is the crux of the issue between the Philippines and China in the Ayungin Shoal, where this ship has been grounded. So there's no resolution on that issue as yet because China does not recognize the Hague ruling because they said that they are not part of the arbitration case. And the Philippines insists that it won the award, arbitral award, and China does not recognize this award. So that's the crux of the issue at the moment, and there's no resolution in sight.
With the lack of resolution, as you mentioned, there are now growing concerns that the ongoing dispute could spiral into a potential conflict, especially if other countries like the United States or its allies are drawn in. What are your views on this? Could we see tensions escalate further?
Well, the tensions have already escalated, as you've seen in many cases, and they've already reached physical brawl contact. But I think there's a red line here, and I don't think the United States would get involved into a shooting war or armed conflict with China over the Scarborough Shoal or the Ayungin Shoal, simply because the stakes for the United States and China are too high to get into conflict over those pieces of rock. So the interest of the United States is not to go to war with China. Their interest is to de-escalate the tension. And I don't think China also wants to pick up a war with the United States over that boundary issue. And the Mutual Defense Treaty between the United States and the Philippines is in fact a mechanism to de-escalate any tension between the Philippines and China. And I am of the view that this conflict should be managed, and the United States should not be involved in any armed conflict in this instance. So, but it's difficult for the Philippines to deal with China because China is a big country, the Philippines is a small country. So the Philippines always wants to get the United States involved, and China does not want the United States to be involved in this conflict. Again, so that is where we are now. We are on a stalemate. But I don't think it's in anyone's interest to escalate the conflict any further.
You mentioned there's a red line. What is this red line per se? And in what ways then, if not participating in a conflict, in what ways could the U.S. support the Philippines in its claims against China?
The Mutual Defense Treaty between the U.S. and the Philippines in Article 5 states that any armed attack on the territory and the metropolitan territory of the Philippines would be ground for declaration or invocation of the Mutual Defense Treaty. That's the red line, armed attack in a metropolitan area. Although recently U.S. officials have clarified that any armed attack on civilians, civilian vessels, including that grounded ship, would result to the invocation of the Mutual Defense Treaty. But even if the Philippines invokes the Mutual Defense Treaty under Article 5, it does not necessarily automatically means that the United States will get involved in a conflict with China, because clearly Article 5 states that in cases of dispute or when that article has been called on, the constitutional processes of the Philippines and the United States will be invoked. And then the case will be elevated at the UN Security Council. It will be reported there, and actions will be taken and de-escalated, and then the issue will be put to rest. So it's not an automatic trigger that the United States will start confronting China, because there are mechanisms for conflict resolution in place. And I don't think both countries would want this issue to escalate. And the Pentagon chief, when he was in Shangri-La Dialogue last time, he said they want the issue to be managed well. That means they don't want any further escalation on this issue.
Thank you, Professor, for sharing your insights. Professor Eduardo Araral from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at NUS.